Hey, good morning, everybody. All right, welcome to Hot Off the Press. Thanks for joining us today. A pretty exciting day, and we've got a guest on the show today that uh, probably I am going to say probably the most experience, at least in number of years, in the marketing world, and certainly doing digital marketing as well. She is an old pro and a lot of great wisdom and things to share for us. We are a live show, so if you've got questions, absolutely drop them in the message in the chat. We'll get to them as we can. I promise I think you will absolutely love and enjoy the guest and what we've got going. She has been around. Oh, also, one last thing. Sorry. Like, follow, subscribe, all of that stuff. I always forget to mention that. Our guest today has been around in the marketing industry for about 30 years. I don't know. I'm anxious to hear her whole background in digital marketing, and with her agency, I think they're going on almost 16 years, somewhere around in there. That was a long time to be in this industry, and she has seen a lot of things. So if you have some questions in regards to how do you grow an agency, and she has quite a large agency, we'll talk about that, all of this fun stuff. But no further ado, let me bring on, happy to have on the show, Monique Rice.
Hey,
Good morning. And it
good
is a
morning.
very nice early morning for you out in the Pacific Northwest. So,
Yes, it is a little early, but that's
y-
okay. I'm usually up anyway.
yeah, yeah. Well, I kind of assumed it probably wouldn't be a huge imposition to you because I know you get up early in the mornings as well. So that's all good.
Yep, yep,
So here I'm going to pop this up. So your agency, Effective Web Solutions, right?
yep,
I'll
yep.
drop this into the chat as well and throw that up.
We're in the
Um,
middle of redesigning our site, so it's like, dang it, we didn't have
nice,
it up in time.
nice. Well, it's looking good. Let me add this to the show so people can see. All right, and I don't know if you've got a who we are. Oh, we do have our team. So do we have very nice. Look, I know this is a family event with you
So,
and your husband both, right? Do you have kids working in it with you?
Kayla is my daughter. She's our
Oh,
general manager.
right there. Oh, like I couldn't recognize a younger version of you.
Yep.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I want to get into the whole because you have got a very nice, very large staff team with you, and it does take a team. So before we jump into the agency side, give us a little bit of background, Monique background on um, some of your experience, obviously in marketing. How did you get into digital marketing, and then ultimately, the start of the agency?
Sure. Well, I've been in marketing my whole life. I went to college for marketing and studied it, and then had an opportunity when I was, well, how old was I? About 23, which was a long time ago, to get into doing more traditional advertising, for a home improvement store. So it was an entry level, but I was handling all of their advertising, radio, TV, newspaper, yellow
Very nice.
pages,
Yeah.
everything really before the internet
Traditional
was
media.
around.
Yeah, yeah.
So I walked into that position and they were like, we dealt with co-op advertising. And so when I walked into that position, they were like, hey, we spent $300,000 last year in advertising, and we were supposed to get that money back from our vendors, and we didn't get any of it back. And so I was there. So we have one store at the time. By the time I left, we had 10 stores, and I was doing about $2 million worth of advertising a year. And we didn't lose any of that money because I had a pretty tight ship as far as how we actually got all of that co-op advertising and everything. And I just got bored. I was ready to move on.
Mhm.
And so, still young, at that point. And so I was like, okay, I tried to get out on my own a little bit and found that that's a pretty lonely thing, and especially being young, I didn't know anything about, network marketing or anything else at that point. So it was kind of feast or famine. So then I jumped into Yellow Page advertising,
Oh,
um, and did that for 15 years. I was a rep and then a manager and then a district manager over 14 managers and 100 sales reps. Met my husband there, who was an executive vice president over the United States as well. So we built a pretty large team, and did really really well in that industry, in that space. And at one point, it just the writing was on the wall. We always knew it would be. It was like when the internet is here and whatnot. The Yellow Page companies were scrambling, to be able to find, do the state of the art online directory or whatever, spending millions of dollars on it, and trying to force us, to sell weird things like videos that were like $350 a month, and I was like, where is this video going to be on the online directory? That's kind of weird.
yeah.
So so we just there was a point in time to where we had transitioned all those Yellow Page companies. Well, my husband and I both were bought and sold about 6 times in the Yellow Page industry. All of them said they had a different concept, and it was all the same.
Yeah. Was that through like private equity, or was it through consolidation, or?
No, it was all up until the end. Well, no, there was venture capitalists and whatnot
Okay.
in the last couple of times that actually were, part of those things. So one of the companies, about 5 years before I left, one of the companies, my husband and I had gone to we had actually left one company and we went to a different company, and it was great run. Came into the market. It was really hard back then. You'd think. We came into the market as the 3rd or the 4th phone book in the area, depending on the market.
Wow.
So that was interesting. I had so much experience and I had a great team that, and because we had such a following, and the other company just didn't take care of their people, we had like 100 people that were just banging on our door to come follow us, to whatever company we went to. And we didn't plan on starting up, a whole bunch of new phone books, but we did. We went into, different markets. I went into Vancouver, Washington as I think we were the 4th phone book, knowing how much the other company actually had as far as revenue in that book, and I took it all the first year.
Nice.
First year. It was a 15-year-old book, and the first year out, I matched the amount of revenue that they had built up in 15 years.
Wow.
So, I had just an incredible team, and we knew what to do, knew how to approach it. So,
Wow.
fun times. But unfortunately, that company actually was bought out by the people that we left 5 years later. And so we knew how that was going to play out. And, the internet was here. We started seeing, Yellow Page companies would start. They didn't tell us as managers. They just started cutting their distribution. And they'd tell us like 2 weeks before the book was coming out, and they'd cut like 30%, of the distribution. And it was just like, not playing that game. And, it was my reputation. I
was going to say, how can they do that, marry that up with the people who bought ads and such in it? Because I'm sure you're selling like, hey, we've got 100,000 distribution.
100%. 100%. And I just couldn't live with that. So, they had a whole movement against them. I brought it to light. But they had some class action lawsuits and things like that. I was like, this is just ridiculous. And they said, according to their contract, they could change however, they wanted to, as far as distribution and all of that. So,
wow.
yeah, so it was really the beginning of the demise of the Yellow Pages. But we got out, we walked out the door, them knowing that we were moving on to other pastures, and started selling the very first day that we were out. We had tested, for a bit, prior to, we kind of had our ducks in a row before we walked out, and we tested a little bit as far as our concept and how to be able to get, on first page of Google, and how to be able to get rankings and
Right.
all of that type of stuff. And, you know, walked out the door. I think our very first month we had $150,000 in sales.
With that
So
agency.
with our agency.
Nice.
Mhm.
That is were you able to, essentially approach some of the businesses that you had booked on Yellow Pages? Was that kind of your Rolodex, so to speak, you went to
Um,
go calling on?
sure, we had some of those, for sure. And I had clients that, were, attorneys and, whatnot, that knew me and trusted me and
Yeah,
knew that I was
yeah,
going to do something with integrity. And that's what I stood for. And so, in fact, those attorneys are still with me today.
yeah,
So, yeah, but most of them weren't people that I actually knew. They
okay,
were, people that I might have ran into or whatever. They just knew they needed a change and that the Yellow Pages weren't working for them anymore. But,
right, right.
a lot of them I didn't know at all.
Yeah, yeah. What an incredible time, and I'm, like, blown away because I don't know that I've talked to any agency owner that said, "Yeah, our first month out of the gate, we did 150,000 in sales." I'm like, "Wow."
Yeah.
That gives you a good feeling, like, "Yeah, maybe this could work probably."
Yeah. Yeah. Proof of concept for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, no kidding. Well, good for you. So what year there's Terry. Good morning,
Hi,
Terry.
Terry.
I love Blair is giving you some kudos here. It says you changed his mind about contracts and open calendar link when I met her at SEO Spring Training in 23. I'm not sure what an open calendar link is, but um,
He might just be referring to, like, all of my clients have a link to my calendar so that they can, book our campaigns and,
okay,
campaign reviews and things like that.
all right,
And then also that's what I send, prospective clients, that, we might be talking in certain circles or whatever. And it's like,
yeah,
here's my link, book a date and time that works for you.
yeah.
I didn't want to go back and forth with people. I mean, that's just a big time waster. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, good, Blair. Good to see you. Hopefully, we'll
There,
see you, Blair, in
yeah,
Arizona at spring training coming up here in a few weeks.
yep, I'll
Um,
be
yes, yes, you will. Um, so, what year was this then that you started Effective Web?
there. August of 2009.
2009.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
we'll be on our 16th year this year.
very good. Well,
Mhm.
congratulations. So, 150 was that monthly recurring revenue, MRR, that 150. So, out of the gate, you've got a $1 million plus agency rolling.
Yep.
So, how did you, I guess, and thinking about in scaling an agency, right? So you're focusing on a lot of different things and simultaneously, but operations and processes, staff, obviously, sales as well. Uh, how, talk to me about how you approach maybe some of those different things in building an agency, because now I'm certain you're much larger than what you were in 16
Oh,
years ago in month
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, so how did in thinking about how you grow and grew your agency, what were some of the critical elements that you applied and poured over?
Well, we were fortunate that we had um, my husband's mentor, basically, that was backing us from the original Yellow Page days. That he helped us with the operational side that he was a little bit more familiar with than we were. So he kind of spearheaded that. And from the sales aspect, we definitely were very, very sales focused from the very beginning. So, without sales, you can't do anything. so,
Right.
I mean, myself included, have a very strong sales background. Always been, a top selling rep when I was in Yellow Pages, but I hadn't carried a book of revenue for many years, being a district manager. Um, you know, uh, and so I was like, am I going to be able to do this? Um, so, and then we brought along, top sales reps with us. Jeff is actually, a team member of ours here, and he came and jumped on board right off the bat. And he had, many years. I mean, I think we equally have as many years in sales and whatnot. So, he came on board as a powerhouse to be able to sell. So we had, that right out of the gate, to be able to help us. My husband has always been in sales, on the sales side. So, I remember, he was jumping on the phone and actually setting appointments, kind of our built-in appointment setter. So I remember selling, my very first client. I was like, woohoo, I mean, even back then at, I don't know, $1,400 a month, back then for, somebody to come on board. But, a lot of people don't realize that, Yellow Pages was very expensive,
Yeah.
if you were looking at a full page ad and a Yellow Page book, you were looking at about 10 grand a month, depending on the size of the market, so I think people
Wow, I didn't
in
know
our,
it was that much.
oh yeah, people in our industry, the SEO industry, the digital marketing industry, would sit and go, oh my gosh, we're charging so much. And it's like, no, we're not. You you can put this in perspective here. Back in the day, yeah, a full page ad maybe 10 grand a month. And you had three other books maybe that, in order to cover your market. Because if the whole concept was, and really became true, is that one book would come out and then maybe 3 or 4 months later another book would come out, and so you'd have 25-30% of the other book thrown away, and you'd lose
Right.
market share by each book that was coming out. So
Yeah.
all the your total advertising could literally be, depending on how much you actually did. Not everybody was in all of the books, but
Right.
it could really add up. And the way the Yellow Pages worked, which was interesting concept, because like if you had a full page ad and you were an attorney, let's say, and it was $10,000 a month, it wasn't less if you were the 20th full page ad. It was the same price. So people would have
Right.
to go 20 pages back, and you still were paying $10,000 a month. So, and if you decided that hey, next year I want to go down as far as my budget, well, and you wanted to go maybe to a 3/4 page. Well, you went to the end of the 3/4 pages because it was by, date of seniority of that size.
Kind of a
So,
first come, first serve. Once you jumped
mhm,
in, you
mhm,
could own. Got it. Got it. Uh,
yeah. So, I mean, when I looked at the, internet marketing, it's like, this is like peanuts in comparison with what people had to spend, you
yeah.
know. And a lot of people don't look at that. But my marketing background really helps me a lot with that too, because I talk to people, business owners, all the time. One in particular that I've had for a few years, and we were just we helped him hit $1 million increase this last year, and you know um, the year before, he was like, I really want to grow this. I've got like 5 years to grow this, and I want to get to $10 million. And it's like, okay, well, we got to seriously talk about what you're spending, you
Mm.
know. So if you actually have a marketing background, you know that you have to actually, if you're in growth mode, you have to spend 10% of your total amount of what your
Right.
revenue was the year before. And, I'm just like, you're not spending but 1%, 2%,
Right.
you know.
Right.
I mean, 5% is just basically treading water, So, and so he jumped all in, and he still didn't hit the 10%, but we're going to expand even more this year,
Yeah.
to get a little bit closer to that. But, it worked.
Yeah.
He just needed somebody to kind of educate him a little bit more
Yeah.
than anything.
Do you find you do a lot of now I'm making some assumptions, but in your existing role, right? So when you're talking with clients, and I don't know how often you are talking with clients, but do you find yourself in that kind of mentor kind of I always like to say what I try to position myself with my clients is that trusted advisor. So it's more than just let's talk about your SEO, but similar to the what you just described with your client and growth mode.
Yeah, 100%. If you're not actually like consulting and guiding them, and you don't have that, you got to have a trust and you got to have a relationship. If they
Right.
just go off doing, whatever, then it's obviously not going to be a good long term relationship in the first place. But, I mean, I have clients that would be like, hey, I've got this company that's pitching me this, would you jump on a call and listen to that pitch and see if it's something that would be good for me to do? And I
Right.
do that for them, absolutely. I want to hear those pitches anyway, so it might be Yelp or,
Right.
you
Right.
know, Podium or something
Yeah.
like that. And, they have me come on basically as this is my marketing person, and I want them to hear it and I'll do what they say that I should do. And I'm like, but I'm going to be honest,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell them, yeah, yes, this is a good thing, or no, it's not, or hey, did you actually realize that we have a version of this too? Or, let me build it for you.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, your goal is to be able to help that business grow, and, if you're not talking and consulting them and, looking at the whole, picture, um, like, like the client that I was actually talking about that we helped grow $1 million last year, we put together a whole program because he wants to spend another 100 grand this year and put together a whole program for him and everything, as we were talking, because I'm like, what other advertising are you doing that you haven't told me about,
Right.
so, and, it's like, well, I'm doing this magazine and I'm doing this over here and I'm doing this radio. And it's like, okay, so how are you measuring those results? Well, I'm not. Well, how do you know whether it's working for you? And it's like, let's get landing pages with call tracking numbers, and be able to measure exactly what you're getting so that we know whether that money that you're spending is working for you, because, if it's not, then you need to shift. I mean, it doesn't matter that it's, hey, it's only $15,000 a year or whatever,
Right.
it's a small percentage of your overall budget. Maybe 15,000 is, a drop in the bucket of the $300,000 that we're, spending, but that money could be better used somewhere else, if it's not performing,
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
let us build all of those landing pages and get you the call tracking numbers and let's measure it and see, you know, it's all in the numbers. It's all
Right,
math.
right, right. I love your approach. So you kind of intentionally, and you got the great, full traditional media background to be able to have that conversation. I think probably
Mhm.
with clients, right? But marrying, that's a hard word for me, but combining, I'll say that, combining some of the traditional media approaches, so somebody's doing a magazine or whatever, along with digital marketing approaches to be able to measure effectiveness and um, uh, uh, what I would say would be essentially affirming kind of the campaign that they may be doing in the magazines or in the print media of some sort, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I think I have a very unique background,
yeah,
than anyone
yeah,
else in this, industry. And, being able to speak to those things and, educate people. I mean, I have a client that, his whole team was all about, he's like, what kind of advertising do you think that we should do or whatever? And they were like, billboards. And it's like, he goes, okay, you guys come to this office every single day and you guys don't realize that we have a billboard right above our office and have had it there for 3 years. It's like, yeah. Uh, so, Yeah, I love being able to look at the whole picture.
Yeah.
Very early on, as we began our agency, looking at analytics, and I would go in, like I have a pest control company, and he brought me in, with the yellow page rep, and I was sitting there going, where are your calls? How can you prove that your calls? Nothing's showing up on analytics. How can I actually, how can we justify what is actually being spent? And they just were kind of left a little flat-footed because they had nothing to be able to show,
Yeah.
and nothing to be able to prove. And so, you can't just throw money at everything. You've got to
Yeah.
look at the whole picture.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I find it interesting. A lot of folks, so you talk about, call tracking and such, and a lot of people, well, on the agency side, I don't talk, it seems like that's not really talked about a lot, or maybe a applied tactic to be able to measure effectiveness. And I just think it's critical to be able
Mhm.
to demonstrate to clients, like, here's where the calls are coming from. This is how they happened. Yeah, and it just solidifies everything else that you're doing as far as,
100%, and that's one of the key components of our retention.
yeah,
I mean, if they know that they're getting calls, and maybe they would like more, but if they know that they're getting calls, then it's going to be something that's like, well, I I need you,
right.
it's working. How can I get more? Or and so opens those conversations. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
100%.
Um, wow, that's great. Uh, I was going to ask, and if you were a new agency, if you're like, hey, you and your husband, you're thinking like, hey, let's start an agency today. uh, what would be kind of your approach to it today versus, and not necessarily versus what you did 16 years ago, but what would be, because things are, I'm sure, different, and maybe there's some commonalities, but what would you do today for those folks who are kind of thinking about, or who have just started an agency? What would be some directional advice you would give?
I think if I had one change that I probably would do, on my agency that is very difficult to go back and do now, is I probably would actually niche down more.
Mm,
We handle a lot of a variety of different kinds of clients, which just means more work for us.
right,
But at the same time, those preach about niching down. I can see trends that are happening across different industries because I have that data. I can see, it's like, okay, well, Google, they roll things out, and it might be in a certain area of the country first, or it might be a certain niche first.
mm,
Like back in the day, it was great. When we first started, there were 10 spots on the maps. So
right,
that was
right.
wonderful. But
Yeah,
it's like, um, so, I could see those trends, or I could, I mean, even I'd have somebody on the maps and then be like, well, you have no reviews. And so that's the reason you're not getting calls. I can't get you any higher. I mean, you're there.
right,
The issue is that you have to have the reviews too for conversion's sake, not that that's, what gets you there.
right.
So yeah, so I would say, for the most part, I would niche down to a certain degree, maybe only two or
Yeah,
three industries, as a whole.
yeah.
And I think that's probably the only thing, really. I
Hmm,
mean,
hmm. Now you started, obviously, if you started your first month with 150,000 MRR, I mean, you had to have processes already dialed in, thought through, right? You're signing in. No, you're like, well,
no,
maybe we kind of did it as we flew.
I mean, no, we didn't. I
Okay.
mean, we weren't all in house. At that point, we had some freelancers and whatnot. And there were some rocky roads within, our. We originally had a partnership with somebody that was going to do all the operations. That's why we didn't have it, right? But that fell apart in 60 days.
Mm.
So, so it was like, okay, we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
And we did, I mean, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we did, we figured it out.
Well,
But
there's
it just
nothing
took a
like
while because we
building.
knew nothing about
Yeah.
the actual back end work. We only knew how to
Right.
sell, and we partnered with somebody that knew the back end work.
Okay.
But he got a little squirrely on us, and you know, again going back to integrity.
Yeah.
So we were like, all right, we're going to figure this out on our own and make it happen.
Yeah.
So it was a lot easier though back then than what it is today.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I remember those days, yeah. I like so that's well, the approach of you have to sell, you gotta have revenue coming in order to kinda continue to grow and have a business is absolutely
Mhm.
right, and then, we'll figure out how we deliver, as we do it, I guess. Yeah, yeah, yeah. How did
Well,
you start out? Well, not yeah. How did you start out? What so you had sales team, you brought some salespeople over, and what did
yeah.
that initial team look like for you? Was it, you know,
Well, we had a core team of people that, had always had high revenue dollars and whatnot, so we knew, and then we had, some that came in and was like, hey, I know sales, I can do this or whatever, but so we had probably about 15 people up front that were salespeople that came on board, but commission only. And those that were strong made it, and those that
yeah, yeah,
weren't didn't.
yeah. Wow, good for you. I love the idea as well as far as advice about niching down. If I were starting over again that way, I think that's probably the approach that we would do as well, is just really niche down on a
Mhm.
particular industry.
Mhm.
Um, I don't do it today still because I enjoy the variety of I very much like to take this trusted advisor approach as well with
Mhm.
our clients. And so I always get intrigued. It kind of keeps me really engaged in the business by understanding and learning about, these different industries and such that we work with.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think if I were doing it again, I'd probably niche down. Eric asks a good question here as well. It's like, what are your favorite industries to work with? Like, if you were going to niche down in one or two or three, like this is it. What would those be?
Um, Ironically, I mean, I would, well, from a company's standpoint, most of our industries are actually home services. So, roofing and plumbing, all of that.
Hmm.
But I actually love working with attorneys and dentists and chiropractors. So it's just so hard, to
Yeah,
actually say. But yeah, 80% of our clients are actually in the home service industry.
yeah, yeah. Heavy competitive environment.
Yeah, when you're dealing with, hey, there's 8,000 roofers in Denver, you
Yeah,
know, but I mean, it's just, a lot of real talk with those people as well. It's like, and vetting them. I mean, because
yeah,
I can't take every company. I mean, if they're sitting there and they're going to go, hey, I want to compete in this market and I've got, $1,500 to throw at it, that's not even a drop in the bucket in
right,
comparison with what your competitors are doing. You're not going to, that's not going to move the needle. So, but I mean, so I can talk the talk with all of them, especially coming from a home service industry, background and everything
hmm
else.
hmm
But the respect isn't always there with them. And they just think that everybody's kind of more of a lot of them think that everybody's just kind of a throwaway type of thing. And I
right,
don't particularly care for that.
yeah,
um,
yeah,
so it just depends, you got to build it too.
yeah, yeah.
My sister owns a roofing company, so um,
Is she a client?
of course, yeah.
That's interesting you say talk about vetting clients. Boy, that's another thing not too many agencies really kinda talk a lot about. Usually, it's like, "Oh, sure, we'll take you."
Mm.
But you vet the client. Curious, walk me through that, experience. Do you vet them in thinking about their budget? Like, you gave a budget example, so if you wanna compete in Denver, you've gotta do it more than $1,500 a month
Yeah.
in order to make that happen. Are there
That's
other
almost in any
factors?
market. But yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as that goes, usually most startups, and, really young companies can't afford to actually, jump into marketing. They've got to do more boots on the ground, networking and things like that. They just don't have the funds unless they've got, some money built up. I mean, my sister was different, in that she pre-planned and, she also knew about marketing and all
right.
of that, just being in the roofing industry for a while before she started her own company. So, she's now had her roofing company for 5 years. Um, so yeah, I mean, startups aren't usually something that we actually will work with. Talking to them about, I mean, if they're talking about a really low budget, it's not something that's going to work. They need to understand that, out of the gate, we need to do some paid advertising and SEO, not just one or the other. You need to have an
Mhm.
approach. One's a sprint, one's a marathon. You know, um, so I mean, if they're a know-it-all, they think that they have all the answers and everything else. That they've been studying this and they're going to start telling us what to do or, all of that type of stuff. It's like, I just don't think that this is the right partnership. We have a partnership approach. We have to have you actually doing some things too,
Right,
we
right.
can't just do all of this on our own. I mean, there's things that's like, hey, we need approval for content. We need pictures. We need, all of this type of stuff. Hey, you're not answering your phone. I mean, I'm trying to help you grow your business, but this is a two-way street. So having those initial conversations up front
Yeah.
and making sure that they have the threshold, of, hey, this is going to take a few months in order for us to
Mhm.
get it going. Are you, you got to, go into it knowing that. I don't want you calling me every day, you know, blowing me up because, I mean, I'm working on building the foundation and that's what I've got to do first.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. Wow. Um, we'll say hey to a few people here. Levy, good to see you, Levy. Hey, man, good to see you.
hello.
Eric's got a follow-up question. Anything with a commercial, transactional, and local tag in Ahrefs? Oh, maybe. Wonder if he's saying that as a particular niche, maybe to focus on.
We focus on certainly more transactional, and we definitely have commercial clients. I mean, they
Yeah.
might focus only on commercial roofing as an example or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, we use Ahrefs. I'm not sure that we use it in the way that you were talking about. We do UTM tags on almost everything. Again, going back to tracking.
Right.
So yeah. Um,
Do you have thinking of the size of our agency now, do you have just a group or a individual or plural that's just focused on data, that's just pulling data with your
mhm.
clients and
Yeah, we
uh,
have
getting their
actually
data there?
our team is a lot larger than what it shows on our website. We just don't have put everybody on there. So yeah, I mean, I have a team of almost 40 people, and we have data analysts, for sure, that just are strictly responsible for pulling information as far as the industry, the market, place certainly. I mean, keywords change by market, all kinds of
Mm,
different things. So
right,
yeah,
right.
we have people that actually do all that for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Let me ask you a couple of things in regards to sales. I'm assuming nationwide. Uh,
Oh,
are
yeah.
you also international as well? Do you have clients in international?
We have a couple of clients that spill over into Mexico,
Okay.
but beyond that, we haven't. It's not that we wouldn't, but because I don't feel like it's really a lot different. But we just haven't pursued it. There's plenty of business in the United States.
Okay. All right. Interesting. How do you guys, as an agency, how do you drive leads? Um, clearly you've got a sales team. So how are you driving leads, and what's that follow up look like for you guys from a lead standpoint?
Um, so from this, sales team is responsible certainly for, getting and keeping, their book of business. We use Facebook ads, of course, our own SEO,
Right.
networking. I mean, there's just a variety of different things, just like what we tell our clients, you can't do one thing,
Right.
so we do a variety of different approaches, to the market. I would say, but for me, my clientele also, I get a lot of referrals from my own book of business. So about 35 to 40% of my business, new business each year comes from my referrals, from my own clients as
Mm-hmm.
well. And just being in our own community and everything certainly helps as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I mean, it used to be 100% of our business was all local up until just right before COVID. And we were like, okay, we really got to branch out. So
Right.
about 4 months prior to COVID, we, started going nationwide. So we're, uh, different things have worked over time. Like one thing will work and then, that doesn't work anymore. And so, we just keep, you know, moving around. I mean, there's a lot of different, things that we just keep testing and trying and things like that. We just went to a conference. I mean, it's always continuing education anyway in this industry. So we just went to a conference, more on the lead generation and, for specifically for our agency and paying for mastermind coaching and stuff like that. Just, because we got to constantly be changing and constantly be growing how
Yeah.
we're approaching things. So
Yeah. 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 I think that's really critical and very important. I'm always of the same mindset. I think that I've always got to be kind of tasking myself on challenging my approach to the business and like, okay, how can I do it differently or better, or look for ways that we can be more effective, and not just in delivering our services, but how do we grow, or how do we outreach, how do we engage with our clients, yeah, so I did the same thing. Actually, this year I joined a particular mastermind to really focus on agency growth
mhm,
and agency management.
mhm.
And I think it's, for folks that are managing agencies, I think that's really is critical, because, to be challenged, sometimes you just get, and this is me, this is where I was, like 6 months ago. I was like, I think I'm just too uh, insulated from other kind of viewpoints on my business. And so,
Yeah,
I
one hundred
needed other
percent.
people.
I
Yeah.
mean, we hired a business coach this year for our operations,
Mm,
to be able to help, streamline that and to be able to be more efficient, overall.
yeah.
And then, I mean, everything. I just feel like if you're not learning and, different approaches and whatnot, in every aspect of your business, whether it be from the operations side, and
Mhm.
efficiencies, or in, your methodology as far as getting clients, or things for your clients, then you're going to be stagnant, and so you have to
Yeah.
keep trying, and doing anything that you can. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I, we
Um, what's that?
we really have also dived into a lot of AI and automation this year. So that's been
Yeah, that was just great that you brought that up, because I was just gonna like dovetail to that, which is AI automation, massive. The last 2 years has like
mhm.
been the talk of the town. What are you guys doing with AI and automation?
Yeah, we'll so I think we started diving in maybe mid last year and then got pretty heavy into it. I'm going to say back in, September, maybe right in there.
Okay.
And so AI voice, AI follow up. I mean, I watch, where my sister's roofing company, I use her as a guinea pig, but, it's like, hey, I want to, have calls being answered and the AI to book your calls. And,
Right.
whether it be the voice or the chat, either one, that, we built out a whole system to where if somebody says, for instance, like she's got a series of questions and everything else,
Right.
that if they say that one of the questions is how old is your roof?
Right.
And she was like, okay, we have a rule. I mean, if they have a roof over 15 years, I mean, we really can't repair it. Right.
Right.
I mean, it's not going to match. It's not going to be warranted, all of that type of stuff. And so, if in the questionnaire that, the questions that the AI is asking, if they say that they have a roof that's over 15 years old, it goes on a different calendar for the roof installation, team, the roof replacement team to actually go out on that appointment, not the roof repair that the client is actually asking for. So, building out those systems and everything, has been exponential. I mean, I love seeing, after hours and on the weekends and
Right.
whatnot, or when they're busy and can't catch the phones, that AI is picking up and booking them appointments.
Right.
And so, it's pretty amazing. I have a accounting company that it looks like we probably will end up with about a 57% increase on an overall conversion ratio. They weren't answering their calls. AI voice is answering their calls, booking their appointments, and all of that now. Whether it be through website chat, whether it be through the
Mhm.
AI voice or whatever. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, it's amazing if you know how to
Yeah.
build it out.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. 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 I was just talking with somebody, I don't know, last week. We were talking about essentially kind of similar, this AI voice, but utilizing it specifically for such as an attorney, and then building out where taking the call and then getting the relevant information and even being able to give kind of a ballpark or an estimate on cost around it, and
Mhm.
then booking a follow-up call or an appointment with the attorneys afterwards. And it was like, wow, that is, and then similar kind of results, what you were just describing, like just the amount of increased business because they weren't, they, they didn't have the opportunity or the ability to answer the calls.
Right. And
And
a cost savings actually in that as well. So,
yeah,
and I don't look at it as replacing people, from the businesses that I talk to. I'm not really looking at replacing people, but put those people
right,
in
right.
a different seat of the bus that actually
Yeah,
could, you know, do more of the genius work, so to speak. So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that is incredible. What are you doing other things for clients? Are you doing like chatbots on clients'
oh yeah.
sites and then engaging with that as well and
Yeah,
answering? Yeah,
100%. Yeah. We were
yeah,
building out those chatbots. I mean, they can be as in depth, as,
right.
as pretty much anybody wants, and automation and everything else. It's just all a matter of, um, you know, if you can imagine it, we can build it.
Yeah,
It's not going to be free,
yeah,
but,
yeah,
we can build it. I mean, I'm fully expecting that my accounting company, I mean, it's like, well, okay, so normally I spend, 15 minutes doing a discovery call, asking all these questions and everything else. Can we, move into actually having, the AI actually ask all of those questions, then send them automatically a letter of engagement,
right.
if it fits these qualifications, like, yes, we can,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. So, I mean, it's kind of fun to actually, figure those things out and
yeah.
everything. But, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's the automation aspects of some of the stuff I think is incredible. Do you use any uh, AI automation in lead generation?
Yes, in terms of, like off of our, Facebook ads and, things like that as well.
Okay,
We haven't really, you know, done it from an aspect of automatically incorporating it and all of our, like clients that have SEO or clients that are doing
right,
paid,
right,
Google ads and things like that. There's extra costs involved in all of that.
right,
So we just
right.
haven't integrated it with all of
Yeah,
our clients and whatnot.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it certainly would increase our clients, overall conversions. There's absolutely no question about it,
Yeah.
but because it's still fairly, I mean, like I said, middle of last year, but when we started actually rolling it out, it's like we're walking before we're running. You can't do it all at the same time, and there's been a lot of learning with it. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to learn how to be able to do the prompts. You got to learn how to be able to do the workflows and
Right.
automation and APIs and all of that type of stuff. So it's a little bit more technical than what I had,
Yeah.
originally thought.
I always think with the AI, with the automation aspect, and I'll move it to that instead of just focusing AI, but the ability to do automated tasks and such. I just always sit and almost get a little like overwhelmed with, okay, what to do, and what are the things that we can engage with in order to drive some of the automated processes. I mean, there's some things that are like just, well, of course, that would make sense. Like um, offering up a intake form for clients, and
Mhm.
and helping to drive that process. But and just in thinking about all of the different things that the possibilities, I think,
Mhm.
around some of the
No,
automation,
it's just
is like,
endless. I mean,
wow,
I know I mean, I'm one of those that it's like it's hard for me to shut off my brain. So,
yeah,
I'll wake up in the middle of the night and go, "Oh, we could do this."
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, the possibilities are just endless. It's just a matter of, having those conversations of, how do we make this work?
mm,
I'm talking to a roofer in uh, Texas, and uh, I mean, he's a client now, but he's using all of these different, you know, uh, softwares and things like that. And he's like, Monique, help me streamline this. I mean, it's a lot,
yeah,
and so I'm going to put together a system for him, to be able to, I mean, he doesn't have to get rid of some of them. I just have to be
right,
able to integrate with some of them and understand how he's using them and
yeah,
all of that. If I can just get him to slow down a little bit to be able to show me
yeah,
and let
yeah,
me, peek under the hood so I can
yeah,
actually figure out how, Jobber and AccuLinks, and he's using one for the other and not the other, and all of that type of stuff, and be able to integrate and probably be able to eliminate some of those things that
hmm,
he's duplicating.
right. Sounds like you are doing something that I've would see as a business opportunity, which is helping to drive automation efficiencies. I'll just call it that, but with your clients as an additive service beyond
Mhm.
SEO and marketing,
Oh
right?
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, ideally, I want to be able to help a business, from an end to end. It's all about,
right,
growth. If they want to grow, then, I want to be able to help them. And it's
yeah,
not, always advertising. Sometimes they don't need more leads. Sometimes I need to be able to know how to be able to follow up with those leads and to be able to convert those leads and things like that. I can't be their salesperson, but I can
right,
train an AI to be their salesperson
right,
probably
right.
more effectively than sometimes their own people.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's but that to me is very rewarding. I mean, if I'm able to help a company be more efficient and also be driving their leads and be more their end to end, I'm their essentially like a fractional marketing officer, in
right,
a way.
right.
you know um you know no, not everybody on my team can do that, but I
Yeah,
have the ability to be able to do that just because I can see the whole picture.
yeah, yeah. Wow, good for
I
you.
love
Are
doing
you? I'm curious. In what kind of ways are you guys internally implementing some automated processes?
Sure. Well, we certainly use, the AI voice and whatnot for ourselves as well.
Okay.
So, and it's come a long ways, I mean, it's always a little bit of tweaking and everything else, but, I have it to where, I mean, I don't go to this specific person that I need to or whatnot. I answer all the questions that whether they're a current client or,
Yeah.
or a new client, book appointments, everything. Then we do a lot of automation within our project management as well.
Mm,
Um, but there's still, I mean, we use Asana for our company.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of automation in that, but we're constantly going back to them. I have a team of developers, so they're going back to them and saying, "Hey, we need to do this, this, and this. These are holes within
Right.
the
Right.
system, type of stuff." So, but I mean, there's just so much to do. Unfortunately, I probably have a lot more to do within our company than you know I always have new ideas. So I'd like to do a lot more, automation, just to,
Yeah.
take the heavy lifting off of mundane tasks, still uh, entering, contracts and things like that,
Mhm.
and having to enter those, uh, individual tasks and whatnot, into our system is something I really like to take off. It's a full time
Right.
job,
Right.
with
Yeah.
the number of clients that we have. It's a full time job for somebody just to enter contracts.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Oh
That
yeah,
is
I
crazy.
mean they get inundated because it's like, oh well, in between myself and Jeff, I mean we'll put in 15, 20 orders in a week, so
This is what kills me about you. You run this big agency, but yet you still have the way that it sounds, you still have a book of business and, you're
I
out there
do. I
selling.
can't let go of my clients. I have more than, well, almost half of our revenue I carry myself.
Wow.
But I mean, I just have a really good relationship with my clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't. Um, we just have a really good working relationship. I mean, it's like they know that if they reach out to me, unless I'm in a meeting, I'm gonna be picking up that phone,
Yeah.
or I'm gonna be texting them, and I'll whatever their issue is. It could be simple. I need a somebody
Yeah.
texted me. It's like, hey, that picture is wrong on a blog, or something like that yesterday, you know. And I jumped right on the phone with them. If I'm not in a meeting, they know that I'm going to get right back to them. I don't avoid them, and all of that. I mean, so that's hard to find in our industry. A lot of people
Right.
aren't very good about following up or really being available for their clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but it's not like they're like messaging me every day or whatever.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, I don't have those kind of clients. It's like we have a respect.
Yeah.
They know that I'm doing everything that I possibly can in order to help them grow their business.
Yeah. Good. So I know you've been thinking about this. What's around the corner for effective web solutions, and where do you think the industry's going? I mean, all of this AI stuff, I mean, probably more than any other time I've heard like, "Oh, SEO is dead," people are like,
Mhm.
"The sky is falling," kind of thing, right? Where do you see the industry going, and how do you see, effective web, um, uh, morphing, I guess, around to the demands of the future?
I think our industry as a whole is probably more fragmented than what it used to be. I mean, it's not
Mhm.
all about Google search anymore. You've
Right,
got
right.
people that are actually searching. I mean, I watched my um, daughter. So I have twin girls. My other daughter owns a hair salon, and to watch her actually search on TikTok for a service, I'm like, what? So, and I mean, they're 32 years old. So, I mean, it's like, it's not like, we're talking about, 16-year-olds or something, so I just think that we're more fragmented. And so, as an industry, we need to take an approach of a holistic approach of actually, being in more places for our clients. Our clients need to be, spread across all different platforms. And it's not just about Google. We need to have a holistic approach to be able to make sure that you're getting part of the market, whether it be TikTok or Facebook or whatever, people are searching, a percentage of people are searching on each one of those platforms, and you need to be there,
Right.
you know. And so that holistic approach, the early adopters are the ones that are actually going to win, just like the
Yeah,
early adopters of Google.
yeah.
The people that are hard to kick out of the top of Google, are because they've been there for a really long time, and they've been working on it, on their marketing a really long
Mm.
time.
Mhm.
So, that's what, the AI if you're spreading your brand across all of those platforms and everything else, we're getting those AI spots, the AI overviews and things like that,
Mhm.
as well. It's all naturally. I mean, we're coming up, and some of the we just spoke to a client that said a client that we just onboarded said that they found us on ChatGPT.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that as an industry, we cannot be tunnel vision as far as just into SEO. We have to be doing all of
Yeah, yeah. I think you're so right with that. Spreading your brand footprint across multiple platforms, and especially in today's world where I think search in general, and regardless of wherever you are, such a brand centric environment right now of building your brand, connecting the brand with your service, brand with location. I think is
it.
critical for success in today's marketing.
Mhm.
Interesting. Well, listen, Monique, thanks so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. I'm looking
Absolutely,
forward to
my
seeing
pleasure.
you in Arizona here in a few weeks.
Yeah,
You'll be speaking at
I will be
uh,
speaking. I'm really
yeah,
excited about it. I'm going to be
uh,
talking a little bit more about AI and automation and how we're building plans for our clients,
nice.
using all of that. So
Nice, very nice. All right. Well, if you folks want to grab a hold of Monique, you can get in touch with her there. Um,
thank
Website
you for
is
having me,
in the
Randy. I
chat.
appreciate that.
Absolutely, and best of luck to you. Best of luck in growth. Continue to grow, and
Yeah.
we'll see you in Arizona.
Yeah, we'll see you in
And
Arizona. That's going to
yeah,
be a great
next
conference. I'm
next
really
week,
excited.
you may be interested in this one. My guest for next week, Chris Martinez, runs organization and agency that helps provide valuation and connecting buyers with sellers of digital marketing
Oh,
agencies.
wow.
So,
Well, someday I want to retire.
yeah,
So,
someday.
but yeah,
And
I definitely will tune into that one for sure.
yeah, and knowing and talking with Chris over the last couple of months, it's like start building your end game, a few years before you actually
Mhm.
want to do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it'll be a good one. So Chris
Yeah.
Martinez next week, folks. Same time, same bat channel, and again, thanks, Monique. We'll see
Yeah,
you soon.
absolutely. I'll see you in a few weeks at SEO spring training in Scottsdale.